Kahalayim La Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Waha, Recha Kwadash. All praises and glory go to you, Lord. Double honors and respect go to our apostles, bishops, elders, and teachers, the men of Great Millstone. To you I say Shalom. Salutations to the hopeful elect. It's your brother Amraya. And let's get into it. This is Genesis chapter 49, verse 19. Gad, a troop shall overcome him, but he shall overcome at the last. Gad is who you know today as the so-called Native Americans, all right, or indigenous Americans. Their biblical name is the tribe of Gad. They are one of the 12 tribes of Israel. And Israel consists of you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and North American Indians. Right now, we're about to visit some of the atrocities that occurred to the tribe of Gad. So let's go ahead and check out the video, and we will come back with some scriptures afterward.
Nearly 1,000 Native American children died or were killed while forced to attend U.S. government-affiliated boarding schools, according to a report by the Department of the Interior. Nearly 19,000 children were estimated to be kidnapped from their families, often at gunpoint, and enrolled in government schools with the aim of assimilation, decimating tribal cultures, and reducing land possession. The remains of 973 children have been found at 65 schools and their surrounding communities. Between 1871 and 1969, the U.S. government operated and supported 417 schools, of which 210 were run by predominantly Protestant or Catholic religious groups across 37 states and territories. A new Senate bill has bipartisan support and will soon reach a vote to establish a Truth and Healing Commission and 3 advisory bodies over a 6-year period, which Native leaders have said is long overdue. We have an obligation to honor the legacy of our ancestors so they didn't starve in vain, said Interior Secretary Deb Haaland. So they didn't die in vain, so they weren't ripped away from their mother's arms in vain.
Tribal leaders are set to testify on Capitol Hill after a new report from the Interior Department revealed that for 150 years, tens of thousands of Native American children were forcibly taken from their families and sent to boarding schools. From 1819 to 1969, the United States operated 408 Indian boarding schools in 37 states. Investigators confirmed at least 500 children died while attending, but experts say the real number could be in the thousands or tens of thousands. The report says the schools tried to, quote, assimilate the children using identity alteration methodologies. That includes renaming the Indian children with English names, cutting their hair, preventing them from speaking their own language or practicing their religion, and forcing them to participate in military drills. Children who broke the rules were subject to punishments including solitary confinement, flogging, and withholding food. Boarding school survivors are testifying before Congress about creating a Truth and Healing Commission.
Hey pushers, let's chat about American Indian boarding schools as part of my series, A Push in 1 Minute Daily. Forced assimilation of Native Americans through education had long been part of America's history, as seen through Christian mission schools and legislation permitting money to be spent on the civilization of American Indians. Through American Indian boarding schools, Native children were segregated from their families and tribes in order to more quickly assimilate to white culture and learn farming and industrial skills. Considered the model for Indian boarding schools, Carlisle School in Pennsylvania utilized a military regimen to maintain a strict routine. Children were also sent to nearby families to work and learn the values of a white American family. The conditions at the school were often horrible, with frequent beatings, malnutrition, abuse, and even death, not to mention the loss of tribal culture and Indian way of thought. Hundreds of government-funded American Indian boarding schools were established in the 18th and 19th centuries to facilitate assimilation, but often resulted in intergenerational trauma for indigenous peoples.
A presidential apology, a big step towards healing for our Native American community. The atrocities committed under the federal government against the indigenous boarding schools is a pain that many are still processing. And our Dawn White is sharing reaction tonight from our local Native American community in a story you'll only see here on CBS News Texas.
President Joe Biden landed in Arizona Friday and apologized for what happened to Native Americans from 1819 through the 1970s in indigenous boarding schools.
I'm heading to do something that should have been done a long time ago. Make a formal apology to the Indian Nation for the way we treated their children for so many years.
Texas Native Health here is an urban Native American clinic that's both a nonprofit and run under the federal government. The indigenous employees here believe that the president's apology will begin the healing process for the community.
Relief is one emotion that comes up.
Chris Logan is a therapist with Texas Native Health and a member of the Choctaw Nation. He counsels those who have been in indigenous boarding schools.
So it's my job to not only help a person work through what has happened to them, but also help them come to some conclusions about where they want their life to go.
The purpose of the schools was to assimilate Native children into mainstream society.
What happened after a child arrived at these boarding schools is they were not allowed to practice their Native customs, their language, anything that would honor their heritage.
A federal investigation found almost 1,000 indigenous children died in the boarding schools, and countless others were abused.
This came about through physical, sexual, and emotional violence. And over time, as the children grew up in these schools, they lost their sense of heritage.
Cherokee Nation Principal Chief Chuck Hoskin Jr. also reacted, saying in part, the president's apology is a profound moment for Native people across the country. I applaud the president for acknowledging the pain and suffering inflicted on tribes and boarding school survivors, which is long overdue. Many of the boarding schools were not far from North Texas and neighboring Oklahoma. Logan hopes the apology can help the Native community move forward and put the rich culture back in focus.
This is one step forward that is hopefully going to rewrite the future after so much has happened in the past.
In Dallas, Dawn White, CBS News, Texas.
You see that your American president, your current king of America, Babylon the Great, is offering up an apology for all the atrocities that have been done to the tribe of Gad in this country. They were literally hunted and slaughtered to almost extinction, herded like cattle onto these reservations, the worst of the land, and had their children stripped and taken from them, where they were subjected to some of the worst atrocities that could be done while at these boarding schools: sexual immorality, abuse, physical abuse, mental abuse, spiritual abuse, all right, made to worship white man Jebus, and ultimately slaughtered and murdered as well, okay? And you get a different number from these snippets on how long that lasted and how many people were affected, because there's no amount of information that will actually depict how large and how many people were affected by the decisions of America, Babylon the Great upon the tribe of Gad. And yes, Gad, a troop shall overcome you, but at the last you shall overcome, all right? This is prophetic. In these latter days, no apology is going to settle the debts, all right? No apologies are going to deal with all of the disgusting things that you Edomites, Esau, Edom, Mount Seir, you so-called self-proclaimed white people have laid up for yourself with judgment, okay? Now, this is Jeremiah 17, and this is talking about the house of Judah. However, I liken this on to all of Israel as well. And this is prophetic as well. Verse 3, "O my mountain in the field, I will give thy substance and all thy treasures to the spoil, and thy high places for sin throughout all thy borders. And thou," meaning you, "even thyself, shalt discontinue from thine heritage that I gave thee, and I will cause thee to serve thine enemies in a land which thou knowest not, for ye have kindled a fire in mine anger, which shall burn forever." Right. So, because the Lord's indignation towards Israel, you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and North American Indians, you were stripped of your history, all right? And this happened to Gad, this happened to Judah, Naphtali, Zebulun, all the tribes. Here in the Americas, we have been gathered together in this melting pot, and in these latter days, the Lord has threw us a bone by allowing us to remember ourselves in the land of our captivities, all right? He have brought us back to the old paths. You can find this in Jeremiah chapter 6 and verse 16. Thus saith Yahweh, stand ye in the old ways, and seek and ask for the old paths, where is the good way, and walk therein, and ye shall find rest for your souls. But most of Israel, to this day, 2/3 of Israel says, we will not walk therein. All right. As for the elect, 1/3 of the nation of Israel, you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and North American Indians, in the land of our captivities, you will remember yourselves. This is Baruch chapter 2, and I'll begin at verse 28. As thou spakest by thy servant Moses, in the day when thou didst command him to write the law before the children of Israel, saying, if you will not hear my voice, surely this great multitude shall be turned into a small number among the nations, where I will scatter them. For I knew that they would not hear me, because it is a stiff-necked people. But in the land of their captivities they shall remember themselves, and shall know that I am Yahweh their power. For I will give them a heart and ears to hear. Right, and this is pertaining to the 1/3 elect remnant of the nation of Israel. Now, dealing with the tribe of Gad and all of the atrocities that they've had to endure, and all of Israel for that matter, the day of reckoning is coming. The day of judgment, the day of the Lord's great indignation, his righteous anger, is almost here, where the heathen shall be judged round about in the valley of Yehoshaphat, the Lord's judgment, all right? And they will have to pay for all of these atrocities, stealing your children, the trail of tears, the bloodlust slaughter of many millions of Israelites, all right? Their innocent blood is found throughout the land. It is crying on to Yahweh. How long, O Lord, until you give us justice, all right? This is Revelation chapter 13 and verse 9. If any man have an ear, let him hear. He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. Right. Those that led us into slavery must go into slavery. All right. Verse 10 again. He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. Here's the patience and the faith of the saints. Right. This is what we are hoping and waiting on. And this is coming very soon. Okay, we still have a few major prophecies that need to kick off. But our Lord, Yahweh, and our Savior, Yahushai, are working on our behalf to bring about the day of the Lord's indignation, to bring about the end of this man's rulership, this man being the nation of Esau, Edom, the so-called self-proclaimed white man. And he will have to pay double for what he has done unto the children of Israel. Never forget what he has done, okay? Because he is going to have to be recompensed for all that he has stolen, all that he has murdered, all that he has graped, and all that he has removed far from their borders, all right? Hopefully this has been edifying. Call halal la Yahweh ba Hashem Yahweh Shai for this message. Till the next time, Israel, Shalom.